Welcome again, albeit virtually, to Ohio State Newark. And once again, my name is Wes Grundon, the Director of Enrollment at the Newark campus. So, jumping right in, let's have you get to know Ohio State Newark a little bit more. And I fully recognize that some of you may have already visited our campus and maybe you have some familiarity. So maybe this is just revisiting a few things for you. And for those of you that are on the call tonight, maybe you haven't been on our campus or known about some of these things. So maybe it'll be a little bit new information for you. So the Newark campus of Ohio State is home to roughly 2,500 students, and that is our previous year enrollment that you see there. Our last class that we had for our incoming freshman class or first year student class was 1513. And I think it's important to note that we have students coming from all over the state. Yes, we do have a lot of students coming from our backyard in central Ohio, but as you see there, we do have 61 of Ohio's 88 counties represented. We also have space on campus for 307 students to live in our residence halls, and we'll touch on that in just a little bit. And we are a very diverse campus as well. And so students coming from all over, different backgrounds, and we are so happy with the student body and the amazing things that we're doing on our campus. So when it comes to your major and pursuing that pathway to your degree, know that you can start any one of Ohio State's 200 plus majors on our campus. But you can actually complete a degree entirely at Newark if you wish, especially if you do have an interest in one of the programs below. Those programs are, yes, geared towards that four-year bachelor's degree. And students, we do have a lot of students that are interested in those, and they are being taught by outstanding faculty. And for that matter, we have outstanding faculty that are teaching classes in all of our disciplines. So know that you are getting a first-rate education. We are fully committed to that Research One idea that Ohio State holds dear, that is being a Research One institution of conducting research at the highest level. And you are going to get an academic experience that's delivered intimately. And we love that because you're going to have an average class size of about 25 students, which means you are going to have connections to those faculty members. Always draw upon the picture that I have there. That's Dr. Oslam Dogan Akiji. And her research is groundbreaking. It is in cancer research. Not only is she teaching chemistry classes and organic chemistry classes on our campus, but she has research labs that our students are able to partake in. So think about that. As early as your freshman year, a student can be taking research or being a part of research on our campus with outstanding faculty like Dr. Akiji that you see there. But we do know that there are some majors or there are majors outside of those eight that you would need to transition to the Columbus campus to complete. And that transition process is very simple. You would begin on the Newark campus, and you would only need to complete 30 credit hours, roughly 4 or 5 classes a semester, and achieve at least a 2.0 GPA. Now, I will note, I want you to all get your students all to get higher than a 2.0 GPA. And know that there are some programs and majors that would require a higher GPA to get into that program. So definitely always strive for higher. And it would be in the springtime of that first year that you would complete that campus change process with your academic advisor. Wanted to go in a little bit more detail on the Buckeye terminology, and you're probably hearing your student talking a lot about each of these concepts. And so I want to make sure these aren't so foreign when it comes up in a conversation with them. So firstly, we do have an application fee and an acceptance fee. The application fee is paid at the time of submitting the application. That is $60. Now, the acceptance fee is something that students would pay after they are admitted to the university. And paying that acceptance fee, I always compare that to thinking about how you would have a down deposit on like a car or a house. That's just essentially you confirming your wish to enroll at Ohio State, and you're paying $100 towards that eventual tuition. Now, that's important to pay and confirm that offer of admission and accept that because once you do, that means you will start getting information about orientation and class scheduling. The next bullet point there, two very important items. The first is Buckeye Link. That is your portal as a student. Think about that as where you do your your students would do their Buckeye business. So when it comes to completing to-do list items, accepting the offer of admission, seeing your class schedule, your bill, all of that, it's going to be located in there. And conversely, the Buckeye Mail, that is your Ohio State email account. So your students would have that account that they would need to make sure they have access to. And that's very important because as an admitted student, all of that information that we're sending you will go to that email account. So there, there's going to be a lot of important things. There have been a lot of important things going out, and we will no longer be sending those to personal emails. So make sure that you have access to that. The Buck ID is the next item, and so that is your identification card. That is your student ID card that gets you into facilities on campus. It also can double up as a debit card in ways where you can have money stored on there for things like going to the dining hall and the cafes. That's a card that you will be able to get by coming to campus at the orientation time. And so you would be able to get that and you would have that Buck ID card for the entirety of your Ohio State experience. The next item there is Carmen Canvas. So Carmen Canvas is, and yes, we use Carmen quite a bit, so we're not talking about the song here. Carmen Canvas is an academic portal that students will have access to that some of their faculty members, in fact, a lot of them might store course information on. You might have tests on there, you might have assignments that you're submitting on that. And so know that that is going to be a very important portal that you'll be utilizing as a student. The next item there, the financial responsibility statement, that is a to-do list item that all students, regardless of who they are, will have to complete. It is a very simple process. I just helped a student with this today. It takes a whopping 30 seconds where you're just agreeing to a few things and submitting that and essentially affirming that you understand that you are financially responsible for your education at Ohio State. The next portal, so yes, there's a lot of different portals that we have from Buckeye Link to Carmen Canvas now to OnCourse. OnCourse for students, that is what they utilize to connect with their academic advisors. So when you're wanting to schedule times with your advisors, have additional connection points with them, that's going to be the system that you use. And that's going to be very crucial because up until now, I know that us in admissions, we've been your primary point of contact. Going forward, we still love supporting you, but know that there's other offices that are going to have a big hand in your academic journey. This being, of course, your academic advisor who will begin working with you at the point of orientation and continue working with you as you're building your classes, thinking about your pathway to that degree. And so you're communicating with them and connecting with them through OnCourse. And all of this is possible. You're logging into all of these systems that I just talked about using your Ohio State username. And so that would have been given to you at the time of you applying. So the students would have that. And it is your last name, or is the student's last name and then dot number. So it's a last name dot number. If you're curious what that number relates to, that's actually how many people with that last name have applied to Ohio State before you. And so just a funny little side note there, but that is going to be very important because that username is going to be what you utilize to log into virtually all of these platforms. And lastly, the statement of account. That is your bill that you'll receive after registering for classes. And so think of that as that tuition bill that will hit. And if you have questions about that, if you are wanting to coordinate the payment of that along with what financial aid looks like, you can connect with us, but we're going to definitely want to refer you to that financial aid office as you're looking at your payment of tuition and what that statement of account looks like. So a lot of bullet points there, a lot of terminology, but these are going to be very much commonplace in the lingo that you're hearing from your student. Next up, wanted to speak a little bit more about housing on the Newark campus, and this is very timely as our housing lottery has a deadline of this week. It is April 24th. So what does our housing look like on our campus, and how do you go about doing or applying for that housing lottery? So the regional campuses, we do not have a requirement that a student lives on our campus. In fact, we have a lot of students that prefer to commute, or they're living in an apartment off campus or near somewhere in the central Ohio area. But for students that do want that experience, we do offer it, and we do have space for 307 students. We usually have more of an interest than the space, so to be fair, we do run a lottery for that. Now, all admitted students with access to your email account, your student will have an email from the housing department talking more about this. So again, the information about that is in the Buckeye Mail, the Ohio State email account. And I know for a fact we've been sending out a lot lately. I've been working a lot with our housing department who facilitates all of this. And we actually had a couple emails going out earlier this week. So please check that. That's going to have the information about filling out the housing application. And in that portal, you also will submit a $350 housing deposit. Having both of those in by April 24th will guarantee you a spot in the lottery. We will be running that lottery shortly after. And that is a lottery that is completely at random. We will be picking names until everything has been processed. If you do not initially get a spot or you're offered a spot in housing through the lottery, we do maintain a wait list, and there has been some movement on that. If you have any questions about that or you need any more details, definitely connect with the housing department. Their email is housing@osu.edu. Pretty simple. But if you also have questions about if you received that email, please talk to your student. Go back and check that Ohio State email account. If you're having any issues, please let us know because I know that we are working on a very short time frame, and I just want to make sure that if you have that interest, you have access to get into that. Talked a little bit earlier about financial aid, but I want you to know where your student is able to locate all of this. Now, once again, we are going to be referring you to an Ohio State system, and that is the Buckeye Link account. You can find that there, or you can get to that at buckeyelink.osu.edu. Students can log into that with that username again and a password that they would have created. To get to the financial aid, it is in that section there circled My Financial Aid. We do not mail any hard copies, any paper copies, anything like that to a student's home. So it's all going to reside in there. And looking at what this looks like once you log in, you would be able to, on the first point there, you would click on View Financial Aid. And that will take you to a page that will show you the financial aid summaries for the year that you're currently in or the year you're about to enter. So you will see multiple of these appearing as you have to fill out the FAFSA each year and you have to look at financial aid year to year. So you click on the corresponding year, and yes, we are in the 2026 financial aid year. And that will take you to the screens that you see over there, 3 and 4. And if you want to see what the aid summary looks like, it would be that final tab there, and that will have a breakdown that looks just like this. And our financial aid office, you can always connect with them to help walk you through this. But you could see a variation of items on here. You could see scholarships, you could see grants, which are free money. You also might see federal work study opportunities. You might see loans. A note I'll make about loans, please know that we don't automatically put those on an account. So if you see how that breakdown is there, this student was offered a loan, but currently has not accepted it yet. Before doing that, we want to make sure that you've done the loan counseling and you've approved taking out that loan so you understand what it means to take out a loan for educational costs at the college level. And so you can see the breakdowns there of what I have there listed or what I have highlighted there in green. That is the money that you are not in need of paying back or your student is not in need of paying back. And then in yellow there, those are the items that you would be needing to pay back as they are in the shape of loans. Sometimes students might also get selected for verification. This can be a randomized process, which essentially means that you need to provide additional documentation. Now, students will see a lot of those to-do list or those requirements in their to-do list in Buckeye Link. If you do have any questions or you need walked through that, again, our financial aid department will help you with that. When I'm done presenting, I will throw their contact information in the chat for everyone to see. But know that there is some additional documentation that you'll need to submit for that in order for you to completely get all of your financial awards. And speaking of that to-do list, you will see it appearing in that Buckeye Link account. We did recently update the students' Buckeye Link to simplify this in many ways. So you also might hear your students seeing this in a different view where there are different blocks that appear and you can click on the corresponding block. And so there is a block that it's labeled to-do list, and you'll be able to access all the things that you see over here. Now, this, as I said, is the system that your student is doing their Buckeye business in. So you'll see a lot of things listed on here: the outstanding charges, the place where you would schedule classes, the to-do list is highlighted. So a lot of different things are taking place in here. I always advise students check this daily, especially leading up to the first day of classes, and continue to do so even after you've been a student at Ohio State. So let's talk about some of the enrollment next steps. And I always, if you've seen my presentations before, I say this all the time, but I'm a fan of timelines. I think it really helps you visualize what the path is ahead. And so we are right here in April. And there are still some opportunities that exist. I've already mentioned that the housing lottery is going on. I know that programs like our honors program and our Lefevre Fellows program, Lefevre Fellows program is committed to students interested in community service. These programs are also still accepting applicants. So there's still things that you can consider yourself for. We also have a May 1 deadline for our learning communities. If you have more questions about that, we actually had a virtual session just recently that talked about those, that recording is on our website as well. This summer, that's when we will have all of our orientations taking place. And then fast forward to the end of the summer, August 25 will be convocation, or more essentially the welcome to campus for your student. First day of classes will be August 26th. And then moving forward in that first year, as their student is taking classes, getting acquainted with campus, building their brand, wanted to put a plug in for our STEP program, our second year transformational experience program. This is something that is university wide, and it really gives students a platform, or really a jumping board, to really excel educationally and learn about different things. Maybe it's an interest they want to pursue. Students can apply for this program in spring of their first year, so it would be spring of 2026. Now, if you're in the STEP program, you would have weekly classes, but don't think of them as truly classes, as you don't need to take any exams or write papers or anything like that. Instead, you are meeting weekly, and you will also be assigned a faculty mentor. So think about that. You have your own personal faculty mentor to help navigate you through your educational interests. And at the end of the program, you are given a stipend to explore something of an educational fashion. So think of this too as it doesn't always have to be tied into your major. I've heard of engineering students that had an interest in photography, and they used their stipend to go to national parks across the country to take photographs of those national parks. We've had students that were interested in meditation and yoga and used it for classes and going on excursions for that. And we've also had a lot of students utilize that at the end of their STEP experience to go to educational abroad trips and explore the world. And so definitely want to make sure your student is considering that, as it is a great program that is university wide. And I mentioned earlier that students might stay on the Newark campus or they might transition. And that would take place after you got those 30 credit hours and a 2.0 GPA in the autumn of the second year, or autumn of 2026 if you're transitioning. But autumn of 2026 might see your students still on the Newark campus if they have that interest, and the major they're pursuing is something that they can continue on our campus. And then fast forward a little further down the road, May of 2029, that would be when your student would receive their degree. We're actually very excited at the university. Our graduation is upon us. Students might be a little stressed this week as we are in exams and finals, but so excited to see all the great things they've done this year, and they are about ready to graduate, those that are ready to do so. And so I'll mention that no matter what campus you start on, no matter what campus you finish on, Ohio State has a graduation in the horseshoe every year with all of our students, and you would be able to do that, your student would, in May of 2029. A few other enrollment next steps. Wanted to make sure that as an admitted student, if your student hasn't done this, please accept that offer of admission and pay that $100 acceptance fee. I mentioned earlier that by doing that, that would give you access to orientation information and you'd be able to schedule your orientation and schedule classes this summer. So you are all set up for that first day of class. And I mentioned to make sure that your student is checking their Ohio State email account. They can access this at buckeyemail.osu.edu. They can log in with their information. You also are able to put that email on your phone. It is utilized through Outlook, and so you can do that, and you can check our IT information to make sure you know how to do that. As there are, if there's information on that Buckeye Mail website that tells you how to do that and tells your student how to do that. Registering for orientation. So students that have already paid the $100 acceptance fee would have already received an orientation invite. We did start sending these out, excuse me, back in March 1st, and we have had students already registering, and we do have select dates in June, July, and in August. And I always stress earlier the better because that gives your student more variety in the courses that they can select. The later you go into the summer, yes, we still will be able to give your student a class schedule. But if they're wanting to have that ideal class schedule, have some more flexibility, then they would want to attend one of those early orientation dates. You would be able to do that again. Your student can do that in Buckeye Link by logging in, and there's an orientation information block that they can click on, and it will take them to the picture that you see on the right, and they will walk through those steps and pick a date. I did check yesterday, and our early June orientations have filled up. We are towards the end of June and pushing into July right now for dates that are available. So wanted to mention that as another push to make sure your student is getting registered and they're taking those next steps so we can see them this summer and get their class schedule. For for male U.S. citizens age 18 to 25, I wanted to mention that they do have to register with the Selective Service. And so this is something that is a federal government requirement. And students would need to do this once they've hit 18. Well, actually, I'll say you can register up to 30 days prior to the 18th birthday, and you can go to the link right there. And students can enter that information, that selective service number, once they have it and they've registered with Ohio State. Now, it's important, one, because that is a federal government requirement, but two, it's important with Ohio State because we need that to be submitted, or if you haven't, you would be charged an out-of-state tuition surcharge. So make sure that's something that you're thinking about. I know some students that are current seniors, they might have already turned 18. Maybe it's going to be somewhere this summer. Definitely don't forget that. And that information also, that to-do list item, is going to be in the Buckeye Link account. So make sure you've done that. If you want to verify, I know I've had this question a lot from your students too. They think, oh, maybe I did this, but I don't remember. You can go to that same website, and if you look at the picture that I have to the right, there is a link there where you can verify your registration. Students can enter their first name, last name, social security number, and date of birth, and you will be able to see what your selective service number is. And know that that is a protected government website, and students have used that a lot to verify if they do have a selective service number. Now we can fast forward to summer and your student has been admitted, they paid the acceptance fee, they've registered for orientation. What is that going to look like? As a new first year student, freshmen cannot schedule courses on their own. The reason being is because we want to make sure they understand the process. They've had that initial connection point with their academic advisor, and they know how to plan ahead for the following terms. So, because of that, at orientation, they will have that individual session with the academic advisors, and that would be the first point where a student will connect with their advisor. Now, students will leave that orientation knowing what their courses will be for the autumn term. And our academic advisors, they're amazing. They will be a great a great resource for you. And each of them specialize in a certain area of majors at Ohio State. So based on the major that you've shown an interest in when you applied, that will be the orientation scheduling room that you will be in this summer. So you will be in a room with your academic advisor and they will specialize in the major that you're interested in. Everything from business to engineering to history to psychology, they will know about those required classes that you're going to need to take. So in closing, and before I go to the Q&A, because I know I always get a lot of questions and answers, especially this time of year, so I wanted to allow some time for that. I just wanted to say in closing, by your student joining our Buckeye family, and specifically the Newark campus, know that the Newark campus, we are the closest to the Columbus campus. And there is a smooth transition to Columbus if your student is wanting to have that transition, whether it's an interest or they need to by major. They're not going to need to apply again. They're going to be a Buckeye from day one. All they have to do is complete those 30 credit hours, that 2.0 GPA, and they're able to transition. No new application. They're guaranteed that seat in Columbus if they do meet those requirements. And as I said earlier, once they've made it to the final year, getting ready to graduate, they're going to be celebrated. All Ohio State students will, either in the shot or the shoe. And your student also will have access to a lot of resources across the university. Now, we have a lot of great things going on at the Newark campus, from student life opportunities, career services, support, internships, research, you name it, we have it. But I know that there are opportunities on the Columbus campus that students have an interest in as well. So just to name a few, regional campus students do have the access to be on the marching band. In fact, we have quite a few students from the Newark campus on our marching band every year. If a student is interested in Greek life, rushing a fraternity or sorority, you can do that. There are different honor societies and organizations and clubs on the Columbus campus that students can also partake in. And lastly, yes, your student can get access to those coveted Ohio State football tickets to see our national champion Buckeyes play on Saturdays or on Thursdays or whenever ESPN decides to put us on a random day. But you will have access to those. And I might add, for admitted students looking to potentially enroll this autumn, May 1 is another important date to remember. That is the national reply date. That is the date when students across the country confirm where they're going to enroll. Now, there are a lot of institutions across the country where that is a hard set deadline. It has to be May 1 or that's it. For us at the Newark campus, that May 1 deadline is not absolute, meaning that if it passes, we're not going to lock our doors to you. We still will gladly accept you and we will be able to still continue to work with you. But May 1 is important because all admitted students that have accepted the offer of admission by May 1 will get information about those football tickets shortly after that date. So you can get your season passes, see where you're going to be seated, and all of that. So another additional push, I guess, if you will, to make sure you firmed up all of that and confirm that offer of enrollment. I mentioned contact information. I know that in a bit I will pull from our website all of our information for our Student Financial Services office so that you have that. But I also wanted to make sure you had our contact information for our admissions office at Ohio State Newark. I generally say that either one will work, whether you want to email us at newark-askabuckeye@osu.edu, or if you want to call us at 740-366-9344. Either one will work. That is totally fine. I generally say if there's a lot of information that you want to share and you want to talk through a process, maybe get some help, in terms of talking through the screens that you're seeing. A phone call might be best, but you can always email us. We can always set up a follow-up appointment. In short, making sure you have the access and the information that you need so that you can take those next steps.